Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Uh, Beer check. And I was feeling a little dry when I started. I should have had a sip before I started, but drinking Spezial Herzögliche Bayerische beer from Tegernsee in Bavaria. Tegernsee is kind of like the German Riviera. A lot of posh people. You should look up where the term posh, P-O-S-H, came from. It's actually very interesting. Um, but Tegernsee is actually a very nice area. I used to go there for press conferences until marketing budgets shrank. And now we go to still a nice hotel, but downtown Munich for Publitech's annual electronic engineering PR event. I might as well throw them a bone because there are friends of mine over at Public. If you need a engineering marketing company, they're quite a good one. But yeah, take and say is you see Lamborghinis and you see Ferraris and all that kind of stuff on the street. That kind of Beverly Hills lifestyle. Outside of Munich, it's Bavarian. Bavaria is Germany's Texas. It's a rich state, and they're very full of themselves in some ways, but they've earned it in a lot of ways. So Tegernsee is where all the not all, but a lot of the rich Bavarians go to enjoy themselves because it's a beautiful, beautiful lake. The Tegernsee, say is German for lake. But I drift from the topic of the evening, which is buying watches. Last week we talked a lot about selling watches, and I thought, wait a second, we need to go circle back and talk about the other side of the coin. I mean, buying and selling are two sides of the same equation, as it were, right? I realize I might have turned on too many lights. I've been practicing with lighting, but I think it's all right. I just noticed I looked really shiny here. Maybe I should do some makeup once in a while. But no, I'll just work on the lighting. That's all. I mean, I'm all by myself here in this studio, and so I at least try to make the content entertaining and informative if I cannot provide high end visual effects. But no, seriously though, when it comes to things like selling watches, which we talked a lot about last weekend, selling watches is a minefield. You could hurt yourself a lot selling watches. Some of the things I've done that I've regretted the most in my collecting journey is selling. But then again, the other regrets are buying. I mean, there aren't many other regrets. I mean, wristwatch check wearing my Rado Captain Cook, which I've really come to like. I've really come to like this Rado Captain Cook. I was just thinking of selling it, but I got it for a really good price. I got it for 3,500 at retail, which ties into my advice on buying. And so I got it for 500 under at retail. So I got a good discount. And it's a really nice watch. I put it on the NATO. It's a great, perfect summer watch. It's bold, big, easy to read, good lume, waterproof, reasonably rugged, and it even has a display back to let you see the beautiful movement inside. It Rado really did tag the base, as it were, get it through the goalposts with the entire Captain Cook family, and the Chrono is an excellent, excellent, addition to the Ratto heritage. It harkens back to a '70s design, the Captain Cook. And by the way, if you don't know, Captain Cook is the one who is credited for, curing the British Navy of scurvy, which is why British sailors are called limeys. But that's a perfect example of, a good buy, as it were. I went into a retail facility, got a retail receipt, warranty, it was an AD of Rado, and I got it for a healthy discount, like a 20% discount. And I didn't even have to pay cash. I paid credit used my credit card. But it was towards the end of the month, and there were actually it was the Christ Jewelers. They're actually a good chain here in Germany. They even make their own watches, or they used to. I can't remember if they make their own anymore. Vempa still makes their own, and Bucherer still makes their own, and those are both really good watches. Those are like a really, really good collector's, by good, I mean, resources, a good collector's 10th watch before the Lessons, after the Lange. But, the let's just start from, that when we get to the mechanics of buying, we'll start with retail, by the way. But let's, uh, you know, look at what we're look the situation, right? Because it's very hard to discuss something if you don't have a complete definition and everyone can agree on the same sheet of music and you can all march in the same direction and all of that other good rhetorical stuff to show that we all understand one another. But when it comes to something like buying, first off, I made a little list of things because I keep a to do list. I have it's a fountain because I like to keep up my fountain pen skills, and also fountain pens give you way less writer's cramp because you can't put pressure on the nib, or you put very light pressure, so there's not a lot of exertion the way with a ball pen you're pushing very hard against the paper, or you're conditioned to push against the paper, and it can increase your writer's cramp with a ball pen. But that's why, for example, Dostoevsky could write was it War and Peace? Or, in other words, the people who wrote humongous, humongous books in the time of dip pens, um, you didn't really get a lot of uh, wrist pain when you're not putting a lot of pressure on your writing hand or the tip of the pen. Really. So I encourage all of you, if you do write a lot and you don't have to worry about smudges, or you could let it sit after you write, or you have a blotter. That's why people used to keep blotters on their desks, so they could blot the excess ink from using a fountain pen. But if you're going to wear a mechanical watch, use a fountain pen once in a while. It is equally elegantly engineering, but in a legacy and archaic sense. Fountain pens will work as long as I mean, fountain pens should actually work in zero gravity because it's capillary reaction that makes a fountain pen work. So in a world where if you're going to write, why not write with a fountain pen? And if you're going to wear something on your wrist to tell the time, why not a watch? And keep all the smart functions on your phone. Or I've seen some people, they wear a tracker on the other wrist that looks like a bracelet. And then you're aesthetically pleasing and connected. Oh, hey, Daniel. Daniel, how's it going? Daniel from San Antonio. Hey, how's it going, my friend? Glad to see you on the show. Maximo, I sold a watch on Watch Exchange on Reddit. I wish I hadn't, but I needed the money. Well, one of the nice things about watches, and I'm always fond of saying, is a watch collection, or even a single watch, is not an investment really, but it is a value store. If I needed, for example, I just recently had a bunch of medical tests, and I do private insurance here in Germany, which you have to pay up front, and if you go over the cap, then they pay you back everything over the cap. And so I pay out of pocket for a lot of basic medical procedures, but in Germany, it's reasonably inexpensive because they have an intelligent healthcare system. But I'm not going to go there. But I paid out like 500 bucks for some tests on my heart and blood work and all of that other. And imagine if, like, I had to do it because I was in trouble, bang. A lot of people can't afford a $500 hit like that. But I could take my Gram, which I'm trying to sell anyway. Anybody wants one, let me know. I could take my Gram, grit my teeth, and get screwed on it and still get $1,000. So I can at least have the money for the crisis that I can now avert, even though I didn't make any money on the transaction. You know what I mean? So, that's another aspect I should have covered last week in selling, but we could pick up selling again in another episode. But I will, amplify that aspect is you may never make a profit on any watch sale, but that's a lot of money as long as you're getting most of your money back. I mean, I've sold literally tens of $1,000s worth of watches, and I rarely make a profit. I do it mostly to move the product along so I can buy a new watch for the show or pretend to buy one for the show so I could play with it and sell them I keep. Like, I really, really was not expecting to keep this Rado, but I've decided to keep it because it's a really, really great watch. And the rest I move along. And then if I can move it along for 70 cents or better on the dollar, why not? What else can you sell and make that kind of a, flip return? You're not making a profit, but that's a chunk of money, a big chunk of money. What do you sell your toaster at 70 cents, 80 cents on the dollar? Uh, you're going to sell a new car at 80 cents on the dollar 2 years after you bought it? You can do it with a watch. I'm just arguing. I'm just a collector myself. And I've, trust me, been screwed on both sides of it, buying and selling. And mostly I screw myself. And that's the thing is it was going to, it wasn't going to be the first point on the list, but I realize it's the thing I should start with is I said it last week and I'm going to say it again going into this conversation about buying is you can't cheat an honest man. You have to act with the highest level of politeness and professionalism when you're dealing with money and other people's money, especially because you don't know how hard it was for them to get their hands on that money. And when you start seeing deals, like so if you're buying and you go to a online store, especially if it's a new online store, especially if it's an online, eBay, like I'm not going to name a particular because it's not just eBay, it's other vendors as well. You don't They screen to a certain depth, but it's not hard to pretend you're a vendor. I'm a journalist and I know a lot of people who I see occasionally at shows and they actually have journalism credentials, but they're essentially hobbyists and they use the most visible aspects of their hobby to pretend that they're a professional in that space. But since in my case they don't harm anything and they're actually part of the community, it doesn't bother me. But if they were trying to, I don't know, not that we get privileges, so I guess it's not an issue. I'll let them get the free charger pack, at the press conference. But there are places where pretending to be what you're not can cause a lot of damage. What if that person wrote something that was inaccurate and some company decided to invest in that company in the engineering space, either buying product from them or buying shares in their company or hiring engineers from them, and it turns out it was a complete train wreck, then the person who misrepresented that information is at fault, but they weren't really a journalist, so they weren't really part of a news organization that takes the trouble to do things like check their work, and that goes all the way back around to buying and selling. That online guy who's got the great deals, maybe they aren't as great as they appear. We just got off of the whole timepiece gentleman thing, which we went into a tremendous amount last week. And a lot of that is they were buying and selling on ego, status. They made people think they were special. In 2021, Timepiece Gentleman had a debacle where they were trying to sell memberships in some cool community to get advance access to cool watches and bits of wisdom from the guru. Who knows? But back then in 2021, they dropped off of the social media interwebs. and got into a lot of trouble for losing lots of other people's money. And now they did it again. So when you think about buying a watch, who you buy it from is critical. And honor and professionalism go to the very core of that, you know? Maximo, do you have any watches I am currently selling? Well, yes, I mentioned selling the Graham, which is a very nice piece. And as you see, I have it on this really cool Bundstrap. I put it on the Graham steel. So it's the Graham factory buckle. So it has the Graham engraved buckle, but it's a really cool black with white stitching Bundstrap that really brings out the steampunkiness of the watch. Give you a good price. Let me know. Just DM me. Um, I've been really thinking about selling my Nomos because it's a lot. I didn't realize how much it was like my Air King until I bought the Air King. But then I'm thinking I should hold on to the Nomos because it's a 42 and the Air King's a 40, and it's a visible difference between them in size. But that's another aspect of selling. We got to go back to that at another. We wanted to talk about buying, but buying, I'm trying to sell. And I have with Heavy Heart. No, actually, I'm not gonna do that. I'm like, see, the trouble is when someone starts asking me to sell, I start looking at my collection and my mind starts racing, and I think, what can I move along? But actually, frankly, in the category of watch you're looking for, I've got the Graham for sale, which is a great watch, and I have a review on it. But I've gotten to the point where, like, I was selling the Rado, and if you really, really want a good, watch and I would sell to a fan just to, put the smile on your face. Um, but I would only give you like maybe 10 or 20% off of what I paid for it. But that would be a great price actually, which is about at the bottom end of the market value for the watch used. I Matter of fact, I could even look up if you are interested in the Rado, we could look online and double check what the market is, and I'd sell it to you right below that. But I'd rather not sell the Rado. So if you really like the Graham, it's a nice watch. I'll give you a really good price for it. But back to buying. Let's go down the list now. First off, are you buying this watch for yourself or are you buying this watch for someone else? Right? Antares, how's it going? Good evening. Um, who you are buying the watch for is incredibly important. And it's a double entendre question because if you are buying a watch for like a loved one, the best thing to do is take them watch shopping and either buy it for them on the spot or note what they like and buy it for them later. Um, but the double entendre part is a lot of people buy watches for other people. They wear it on their wrist, but they're buying it for other people. And that's not good. That's not very healthy. That's a kind of collecting, but it's not a healthy way of collecting, in my humble opinion. You should be wearing that watch for yourself, not for other people. And I recognize there are people who do that with everything, with their wardrobe, with their style. They're doing it for other people. They either have a perceived audience or an actual audience, or they have a style that they want to be very vibrant about. But then again, at that point, if they're that attached to their style, then they do like the watch that they're putting on their wrist because it's part of that style that they want to represent. But if you're a guy or a gal who's into jeans and boots and something rugged, and you buy a Rolex Datejust because you think that everybody wants to see you in a Datejust, and you can't afford well, actually right now you can afford a Sub at a good price. Sub's a good jeans out in the field doing rough stuff watch. The Sub is a great watch for that. But maybe you should think about an IWC. Maybe you should think about a Rado, save yourself some money, or drop a little bit more on it and maybe get a Blancpain. When you're buying what you think other people want, you may blind yourself to the opportunities that exist out there for other watches. Why buy? I own a Rolex myself. I have the new Air King, which I really do like. I really do like. It's almost too small for my wrist at 40, for a sports watch, but it really is. It runs on rails. It's such a precise mechanical piece. Everything lines up all the time. Secondhand hits the hour, the minutes on the minute marker. It's a really well-made watch. But there are other watches. There are better watches. Arguably, you know, Omega Globemaster annual calendar, right? The only annual calendar Rolex makes is the Sky Dweller. Omega even makes a repeater, a stopwatch repeater, the Speedmaster repeater. They make great watches. See, so buying what you think other people expect you to wear, you're you're missing out on the multiple opportunities that watch collecting can expose you to the beautiful watches and pieces and experiences that you can have. And some people would go, "What are you talking about? Having such fantastic experience? It's an inanimate object." People will tell you what you wear on your body, clothing, shoes, belt, hat, watch, it reflects back onto you as well. That's one of the reasons. I mean, I went through a fake watch phase. I did. There was a period of about a year or so that I bought fake watches because I lived in New York City and I could go to Canal Street and I could pick up a fake watch pretty easily. And the reason I stopped it was because I knew it was fake. You know, if you wear watches for other people, you're open to doing things like wearing fake watches. Because if you're wearing a watch for yourself, you'd never wear a fake watch. You'd buy an Oris or a Mito or a Hamilton or one of the myriad well-made Swiss watches at affordable prices instead of a fake for the same money. So, Daniel, Mont Blanc has very good rollerball pens. Next best thing to a fountain pen. Yes, well, they understand it. They glide very nicely. They're almost like one of those gel ink or liquid ink pens. Well, all inks are liquid, like a gel ink pen. I get what you mean about their. Well, um, this is a case of buying. I was at a one of my local watch shops, and he had a Mont Blanc pen and pencil and ball pen set, and I picked it up used for the price of one a Mont Blanc new. So I've got the fountain, I've got the ball pen. I actually keep the ball pen in my computer briefcase, so whenever I go to a trade show, I have that to stick in my coat, so I don't forget. I at least have one good pen with me when I'm on the road. But yeah, Mont Blanc means fantastic fountain pens. There are some companies that actually make pens that take the Mont Blanc filler, so you get the quality of the ball pen nib in a less expensive pen or a more expensive pen. Some of them are quite expensive, the alternatives that use the Mont Blanc filler. Some they do that. There are a lot of companies that'll have a Parker, that'll take a Parker standard replacement or a Cross standard replacement, because those are very good companies. And all you have to do is make the case. It saves you a lot of engineering. Bravo Delta, how's it going, my friend? How's it going? Nice to see you. So we're about halfway through, and we haven't even just started on the list. So let's see. Um, we hopefully have jumped over the fact of why buy a watch. Yes, you might want to buy a watch to impress other people, but I strongly suggest you buy the watch to satisfy yourself. Don't buy a limited edition. Limited edition watches are for well-heeled collectors. They are not worth the money that you're spending on them unless you are dedicated to that brand. I was going to mention lately there was one exception. I was in Frankfurt and there was actually a line outside and to get the desirable ones. And I went somewhere else. I actually went to try to get a Breitling rubber strap for my Navitimer. which I'm currently wearing on a Milanese. The Navitimer works nice on a Milanese. But I wanted the rubber strap for the summer. And so I walked off and did that and came back, and the line was gone because it was a short line. There were maybe 15 people in it. But the fact that there's still a line in front of the Frankfurt Swatch shop this Saturday tells you that there's still a buzz. And so I went in, and because I needed to get batteries for friends' watches, because when people have problems with their watches now, they give them to me like I'm a magic wizard for watch batteries. I mean, all you got to do is take them to a shop, and they'll change them for $5, 10 on the outside. But when it's a friend, I take the watch and I get it. I'll do it. And Swatch will swap the batteries out for free for the life of the watch, so you don't have to worry. Swatch is really cool about that. And so they said, "Did you want to see the other missions?" And I said, "Oh, you still have some left?" He goes, "Yeah, the line was for the desirable ones." And everybody wants the mission to Mercury and the mission to Moon because they look so much like the real Speedmaster. But I own a real Speedmaster, so I want one that looks different. Like I have a mission to Mars because it looks cool. It's red and white. It's an homage to the Alaska project. You can tell it's an homage to the Alaska project because it's red and white like the Alaska project, Mars watch like the Alaska project, and the subdial pointers are shaped like the Alaska project subdial pointers, the only one in the Moon Swatch collection. So he said, "What do you?" And they had one of those available, but I own one already, so I didn't get it. So I got a mission to Saturn. And I'm going to do a couple of episodes, of course, on the mission to Saturn. And I'm going to slowly add to my Moon Swatch collection now that they're becoming more readily available. So from my own local experience, because Frankfurt's a medium big city. So if you live in a big city, it's probably even more. When I was going through Geneva a couple of months ago at duty free, they had 5 Moon Swatches, pretty much the same 5 moon swatches in every swatch store. The green one, which is I think Mission to Earth, or the turquoise one, the yellow one, Mission to Sun, Mission to Jupiter, Mission to Saturn, Mission to Mars. Those are the 5 moon swatches that you're gonna start to find everywhere. And frankly, I say buy them, because if you're buying a moon swatch to trick other people into thinking you're wearing a real Speedmaster, we go back to the first item on the list. You're buying the watch for other people. People, don't do that. Okay. Hey, Gian Melendez. I don't Melendrez. I hope I didn't mangle your name too badly. It's probably Gaelic, and not good at that. Um, but yeah, don't buy watches to impress other people. I mean, we all want people to appreciate our taste, but that should be a secondary effect. You should love it for yourself, to yourself first. So you have to think about what kind of watch you want to buy, because the kind of watch you want to buy, some watches are cheaper to buy used. You know, a lot of there are good watches that depreciate very quickly, like Mito and Oris, and well, Hamilton. Well, they're all reasonably inexpensive to begin with, and they all depreciate relatively rapidly. But they all then hit floors that are about 50 to 60% of their original retail, depending on the watch, and over age, maybe as low as 40%. But if you buy, say, for example, a $500 Hamilton, you're probably going to be able to get 300 for it down the road if you wanted to move it along. Or if you were buying that Hamilton, then if you don't mind getting a used one, instead of paying 5, you can pay 3 and get that Hamilton. You see? So, if the offer is too good to be true, it probably isn't. And I see this a lot. I have a lot of people ask me to vet uh, offers on online websites for watches. And when it comes to, if you see a date just for $8,000 from Hong Kong, don't buy it. You know, $7,000 from Bangalore, you know, don't buy it. Heck, sometimes 8,500 from Manhattan. The problem is that if the deal sounds too good to be true, there's a really strong chance it isn't. Now, there are some deals that are true, but that's usually because it's a fire sale, and then it's pretty obvious that the person is selling because they need the money, you know? It's that's difficult to tell online, but one of the ways to buy a watch is from another watch person. In fact, the reason I have the Gram and, I bought it to do some episodes, but a friend of mine had a little bit of tax trouble and he needed to sell the watch, and I gave him a reasonable price for it, and so I bought the watch from him, and so I got it for a very good price, which is why I'm willing to sell it for a very good price, because I knew he needed the money, and I wasn't gonna try to take him too much over the ringer, but I did get a good discount because of the circumstances. So, unless you know exactly what's going into the deal, if the deal appears to be good to be true, it's too good to be true 90% of the time. Now, if you are an astute buyer, you can find a deal that's too good to be true because the person who's selling doesn't realize what they have. My quarter repeater pocket watch, I bought it for 550 euros in Hanover at a antique shop, thrift store. They just thought it was another old pocket watch. And so I bought it and I paid another 350 or so to have it restored. And now it's a completely functional quarter repeater. And a quarter repeater pocket watch, even a brass one, will actually be it's got the patina of use. It's obviously a working man's quarter repeater, but a quarter repeater, just the fact that it's a functioning quarter repeater is worth between 2 and 3,000. So that was a great buy, but that wasn't because someone said, "Hey, I got this, pocket watch and it's cheap." It's because I spotted an opportunity in the field. All right. Let's see. No worries about the pronunciation. Thank you, my friend. I was going to get a Hamilton khaki king, but after much research and following the buy the watch for myself principle, I went for the Longines Spirit 42, which is also a very nice watch. I had the Longines Spirit Zulu, and frankly, I don't miss it to the point I would buy it again, but I miss it to the point that I would have held on to it. I don't regret selling it, but that is a watch I would have gladly kept in my collection. That the Longines, Lo just like Ratto and the Captain Cook, Longines and the Spirit family, they kicked it right, hit it out of the park, kicked it between the goalposts. They really did a great job. Frankly, I think that's a good sign for the market because a lot of these corporate owned watch companies are forced to stay in their price point, in their trim level, in their perceived market, and that a company or companies as strongly restricted as Longines, as Ratto, as Hamilton, that they're coming out with some, like even Montblanc, um, they're coming out with some really interesting and compelling pieces that make you enjoy. Like I said, I didn't realize how. I mean, it grew on me, and frankly, it grew on me more after I put it on the NATO. Because on the NATO, it is a fun watch, and it comes with a NATO, but it comes with a black NATO. I I hint to, Ratto, put a Bond NATO in the box. It's way better. It goes with the Fume dial way, way better. The gray to black in the center works perfectly with the Bond NATO. But, you know, $4,000 at retail, it should be a nice piece, but there are a lot of people who drop that kind of money on a watch that not that I don't know. There are some watches out there that really abuse the, buyer, but, your mileage may vary. Awesome how to know how much I approve of Longines. Oh, yeah, I love Longines. I really do. I have n I've owned several, Um, I'm still trying to find the perfect Longines, and I think I might have had it in the Zulu, but then they came out with those flyback. I'm thinking maybe I should get the flyback. I don't know. If I see one in a store, get to look at it hands on, because that's the other aspect of buying, right? Um, well, we still have time to go through the ways to buy. I'll go through the list a little bit more. Well, actually, that's the next point that applies directly to retail. I literally wrote someone to yell at. If you buy retail and you have a problem, you can literally just walk back, slap it on the counter, and say, "Do something about this. Here's my receipt." And they have to do something about it. It's in the rules. You buy from an online vendor, yeah, depending on the rules of the site, they may have to make good. But unless it's a site like, say, for example, Chrono24, if you're a registered vendor on Chrono24, there's a money back guarantee involved in that because they sign into it. Um, but if you're just buying online, that person could just disappear. They may have had a address, but is that a real address? They may have a phone number. Is it a real phone number? Email address, is it a real email address? I mean, if an established vendor like Timepiece Gentleman could walk away with over $5 million with of other people's watches, what chance do you have against, someone online you don't even know, don't even see? So the biggest argument that I have for retail is you have somebody to yell at if there's a problem, someone to go to if there's an issue, someone to go chat with about watches, someone to schmooze so you can get upsold to the nicer pieces at hopefully either discounts or access. Retail is a viable, valuable way to buy anything because we are social animals and everything works in person better. Everything works in person better. Um, and like I said, gives you somebody to yell at if there's an issue. So, are you collecting for money or love? If you're a speculator or an investor, let's say you're going for the long look, or you're a flipper and you're just trying to, see who you can push this mission to Mars off to. Um, Although I don't think the speculators are selling many of them, but they're probably selling a ton of mission to the moon and mission to Mercury's. But if you're collecting for money, you have completely different needs, views, tastes than someone collecting to put them on their wrist. Even people who like watches but collect primarily for the ability to sell, that restricts what they're going to buy. They'll never buy a Hamilton, a Longines, a Mito, an Oris, a Rado. They'll never buy a mainstream watch brand because they'll never make a profit on it. They'll buy something exotic, or they'll buy something that has a flash in the pan short-term advantage. They'll speculate. They'll buy into trends, but they're not buying because they want to see a cool chrono on their wrist or have fun with a nice watch. They're buying because they're driven by their wallet. And I'm never going to say to anyone how they should collect, why they should collect, or what they should do with their money. But if you're collecting for the dollar value, you're collecting for completely different reasons than collecting for the love of the game. And that's a fact. You know, in fact, I'm beating myself up. I'm right on the fence. There's an Oris Pro Pilot 10 skeleton in Frankfurt right now, but it's on discount, but they want 5,900 euros for it, which is a little high for a discounted piece. I'm going to see if maybe I go in there with cash, like 5,500. They'll sell it to me. But if I was buying for speculation, I would never buy an Oris Pro Pilot 10-day skeleton because I wouldn't get if I managed to get it for the 55, I wouldn't be able to sell it for that. The store's probably been sitting there forever with that in the window, and they probably get somebody to eventually buy it because they're a retail location and they get a lot of eyeballs. But if you're just trying to sell it, to people you randomly meet, you're not gonna make a profit on it. Now, if you're selling a Rolex, I've never really gotten screwed with my Rolexes selling. I've always regretted later because either the price went up and I'm like, I should have sold it later, or I regretted selling it because it wasn't a bad watch. I still miss my first Explorer 2. My second one had a worn bezel, and I never really got over the fact that you couldn't see the numbers very well on the bezel. So I didn't regret selling it. That's why I'm really pleased to have this new Air King because it's new. It's a cool, to me, I like the non-traditional. The Air King to me is a very cool Rolex because it's the unexpected one or one of the unexpected ones. And it's its own watch. It has its own personality. But there are a lot of watches out there like that. So that's why I was saying about don't buy watches for other people. Don't blind yourself to the other opportunities that exist in the marketplace. See, given the fact that I already have a 4 automatic, the Hamilton Jazzmaster, nice piece, Mito Ocean Star, also a nice piece. I had the Chrono, just sold it. Tissot Ballad Kosk. Tissot makes great pieces. And Seiko Turtle, again, and all great watches, good collection, my friend. I'm seriously considering a Grand Seiko Quartz, the 9F85. Be your most expensive at about 2,600. And the advice is, Daniel, I would say go for it. I would say go for it myself. If you really want that piece, get that piece. It's a great piece. And Grand Seiko, again, if you're buying it for the residuals, yeah, don't buy it. But if you're buying it because you want to wear it and you want to enjoy it, go for it. It's a great watch, and you will never regret the purchase. You will never regret that purchase. You're always going to look at that watch with a smile on your face. Good piece. Daniel, I agree. There's something special about actually going into a store to buy a watch versus buying online. And that's exactly the point. And when you think about, I always say, if, especially on an expensive watch, hold it in your hands before you pull the trigger and commit to that kind of money. And retail, you can touch the watch. You go in, you point at the watch in the window and say, I want to look at that watch. And they will actually put it in your hands. Isn't that amazing? Go to you could buy something and actually touch it first. But yeah, retail is the best way. If we go through the list really quick, then wow, time's running, quarter till. The best way to buy, in my humble opinion, is retail at discount, right? In other words, you're buying at retail, but you get a good discount, like I got with this Rado. Retail at discount, best of both worlds. You get a decent price. You may not get a rock bottom price, but you get a decent price. You have someone to complain to. It has a warranty. They give you a nice bag. If you're nice, they'll even give you the catalog for the company, maybe a couple of others in the shop. And you go back and you chat them up, and maybe the next time you go in, you buy something different or more interesting or less interesting or nicer or whatever you want to buy. But cultivating a relationship with a retail facility gives you options and gives you somebody to talk to about watches, especially if you don't have a lot of people in your neighborhood that are into it. So yeah, cultivate your retail facilities, cultivate your retailers, the shopkeepers, and a lot of them have knowledge about watches that you may not have, and it would be interesting to learn from. So discount at retail, discount online from a respectable retailer, discount from a friend in person, retail in person, and then market price online from a respectable dealer. Or actually, okay, if you actually can physically get the watch, then it could be from anybody. But to guarantee that you get the watch, buy from a respected dealer. That's why sites like Chrono24 have dealer ratings. So the dealers actually have customers rating them. So it gives them an impetus to actually service their clients. It behooves them to be good retailers because they get rated like Yelp, you know? The gray market can be shady. Bravo Delta says the gray market can be shady, but I don't hate the gray market. Well, I don't hate the gray market. It's just a dangerous place, like Bryant Park at night in the old timey days. Nowadays, it's not dangerous. I've purchased multiple watches from Davis, SW, Joma Shop, and WatchMax. I've bought from Brogel myself, who's one of those online, no, they're not an AD, but they're an online dealer. I bought my Longines Zulu from them, and they took very good care of me about the strap. I wanted the metal, and they didn't have one in metal, and I complained that I paid. They gonna ship it, and it was a while, so they sent me the leather strap, and then they mailed me the metal strap when it came of it when they got it in as a replacement. So I wound up getting both straps for the same watch from an online vendor. So yeah, again, reputable, right? Uh, I've heard of Joma Shop, and I don't know if I've heard of WatchMax. It sounds familiar, but again, reputation. The more that shop does well by people, Joma Shop has a very good reputation. For example, um, they're an example of, like I said, one of the good online retailers, and you get a good online retail experience from them. I've only purchased one watch from an AD. Well, I mean, was it at least pleasant to talk to a human being, or were you okay? To you, it was all right, whatever the experience was. Um, Again, like I said, it's always you can buy from anyone, but in my mind, it's preferable to buy from face to face. But I've also purchased and sold. Um, I've been very active on Chrono 24, and I'm getting back onto Chrono 24 because I've managed to get re-registered with my American tax number, so I can sell watches on Chrono 24 again. In fact, the Graham is on Chrono 24. If you want it, ping me and I'll discount you directly through Chrono 24. And since it's an escrow site, then you know that you'll get the watch because you don't get your money taken until you get the watch in your hands. Uh, so yeah, if anybody does want the gram, look it up on Chrono, ping me, ask for a discount. I'll give you a discount, and then you get the watch, and the escrow service handles everything else. And that's another nice thing about that kind of a site is since they hold the money, you can trust the transaction because if the transaction doesn't go through, they don't give the other person your money. So that's one of the advantages of that. But online is there's nothing wrong with buying online. The whole issue with buying online is trusting the person on the other side. Famous New York Times cartoon, the two dogs talking and one's at a computer. Cool thing about the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. And a lot of people found out Timepiece Gentleman was a dog. A lot of people, a lot of good people got burned from the Timepiece Gentleman debacle. And one could make the argument that they were reputable, but they went through a scandal in 2021. So they weren't reputable. No, they were not reputable. They recovered their reputation because they played to snobbery. They played to insiderness. They played to the bad parts of the watch industry, you know. And so a lot of people forgave them because they didn't get personally burned. And once the flames settled, Timepiece Gentleman went back into business and started dealing with watches again. But I don't think they're going to come back this time. I mean, I understand it's over $5 million worth of watches that were in consignment that he snorted off of someone's private parts. I mean, how do you blow that kind of money? I mean, people do it all the time, but it boggles the mind that someone could be that wasteful, especially with other people's money. And that's why you have to be careful when you buy a watch because Well, any buying marketplace situation is a gamble. The key is to minimize your risks. Reputable vendors minimize your risk. Qualified manufacturers minimize your risk. Good regulated marketplaces minimize your risk. People who self-regulate the industry minimize the risk. That's why I went off last week on fake watches. I'm not gonna go into it this week, don't worry. But fake watches are the tip of the spear. If people are willing to tolerate a fake watch, why not a counterfeit for millions of dollars? Why not steal your money? If you don't care about other people's money, why should I care about your money? So when it comes to buying watches, the first thing is reputation. You have to trust the person you're buying, whether they're online, in person. There could be a face-to-face vendor. Maybe the guy decided to cash out that year and walk out with everybody's money, and you happen to be the last person to walk into his shop before he decides to lock up and walk out with everything after 25 years. I mean, you can't control everything, but odds are they're not going to do that after 25 years. Odds are they're going to sell your watch on consignment, take their 10%, and expect to get more business out of you because they've been there for 25 years. So, yes, reputation is everything. And to say that it isn't, or that I got a deal, I bet you a lot of the people who are now missing watches and or money from Timepiece Gentlemen probably thought they were getting a deal when they were walking into it too, which goes back to my point about you can't cheat an honest man, and if it's too good of a deal, it probably isn't a good deal. And then, let's see. Well, that actually ties into just my last point, how much profit is honest? That buyer has to make that seller has to make a profit, right? I mean, we all have to eat. But then you have to think about, are they trying to make an honest profit? But then again, who determines that? The marketplace determines it in whole, but the market tolerates a lot of stuff. So that's why shopping is important. And that's you can shop online. You don't have to walk from store to store. You can hop from site to site. Shopping, reading reviews, informing yourself about the manufacturers, informing yourself about the store chains, informing yourself about the online vendors, informing yourself about the online shopping venues. The more you know, the more power you have, and the less likely someone's going to be able to screw you over because you know enough to avoid the pitfalls. Knowledge is power. Inform yourself. That is the ultimate last piece of advice when it comes to buying anything, but especially something as complicated in style and engineering and mechanical and uh, price conscious as a watch. Knowledge, research, who's selling it to you? What are they selling? Who made it? All of those things. If you don't know every single thing about the watch going into that transaction, you're coming away at a loss. I mean, I've had friends say, "Hey, come with me to buy a watch," and I've gone with them to verify, that the watch was legit, or at least within the best of my ability, but I think I'm pretty good. And I would bring my loop, and I'd bring my diamond tester, and make them open it up and show us the movement and all of that good stuff in those circumstances. Because when you're buying, you should know everything. If the seller is hiding anything from you, or waving it away as it's not important, or I forget, or the dog ate my homework, walk away from the transaction. You should know everything about the transaction before going into it. And if there is something you don't know, there is something wrong. That's my 2 cents on this subject. Let's see. Gian, yep, that's what I got with my Longines. Bought it at 1344 or 1700 when the original price is 21 or 26. My AD here is in the UK, Beaver Brooks. See, yeah. So you get a good price at retail, somebody to yell at if you have a problem, someone to have a cup of coffee with if you're cool with them in the morning, someone to cultivate a relationship with. I I think I heard about the Timepiece Gentleman story. I think it was making rounds on YouTube early this month. Exactly. And I didn't want to talk about it, in a news journalism sense. Oh, and this is what happened. I would rather just use it as an example in the context of this kind of a conversation as a perfect example of someone who was supposedly reputable who walked away with everybody's money. All points taken. I've just started my small watch collection last July, but people like you really helped to make my watch my back and wallet. Exactly. Knowledge is power, my friend, and I'm glad that I've helped a little bit. Thanks, and God bless you, tubers like you. Oh, thank you, and God bless you too. God bless all of you out there. I love you all, as I've said many times. And hey, we're at the top of the hour. We go what? Oh, what? Missed one. I have a question. Is the Longines Conquest a good watch to get? Yes. I had the Conquest Moon Phase triple date. Great watch. Had it, loved it, had fun with it, and sold it, but totally awesome watch. The Conquest is a nice sports Longines watch. Um, the Timepiece Gentleman was when someone consigned the watches, isn't it? Yes, exactly. So we're at the top of the hour. It's been really great chatting with you all. Had a wonderful time. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And next week, we'll talk about the rising watch prices. Talk to you all later. Have a great week and take care.